All right, guys, never mind the chopping sound in the background that I can only presume you definitely hear because it sounds like a Mexican massacre is taking place next door. It's just the restaurant, as you guys know, operating out of a janitor's closet. Comes with its ambient noises. So anyways, let's look at this particular instance in the CQB Force on Force training because this is probably the biggest lesson that I saw from all the footage that I reviewed, and I think it's the most important to hit home with you guys. So in this scenario right now, you have the home invader kicked in the front door. I had the other person, the homeowner, the victim, I had them staged throughout the CQB house in random locations without their firearms. So they had to run upon hearing the forceful entry. They had to run in order to get to their firearm. And then I even made them load it because they had it condition 4 with the magazine next to the weapon system. This was to simulate a couple of things. One, when we talk about close quarters battle, home invasion, whatever, crime, defense in general, surprise, speed, violence of action. So when you have the surprise on someone, i.e. they don't have home security detection capability, they kick in the front door, they then have speed because there's no delay mechanism in place, talking about the 4 pillars of home defense: deter, detect, delay, and ultimately defend. And if they have violence of action, so if they're running throughout your house very quickly and they're shocking the hell out of you because you're sitting on the toilet, then you're pretty screwed, guys, which is why the 4 pillars of home defense are so imperative. I cannot stress that enough. You must watch the 4 pillars of home defense videos. A lot of that stuff is so easy to implement, to take this all away from an adversary. So go get some 3-inch screws, watch the videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. In this scenario, our assailant has already worked his way up through half of the home, and then the homeowner has already made it to his firearm, and then the following ensued.
Forearm.
Okay.
Where you hit?
In the groin.
Really?
Well, in the groin area, not in the dick though.
Okay, so what happened here in this video? Let's surmise and then we'll break it down. Our assailant was going throughout the home, not much speed. He had slowed down, clearing the rooms. He lost the element of surprise because basically with slowing down, the homeowner was able to get to the gun. And so now the question is, does he have the willingness for violence of action, shooting, killing, murdering, whatever? Now, as he begins to come up on this next room here, the first thing you'll notice, or at least I did, was his shadow is casting hard on that wall. So now that we know where Adam, our homeowner, was located, right here, he could see clearly right up against this wall, white, the light was coming in. This can be beneficial to you if you are able to custom design your home, or if your home is just naturally laid out in a way to where maybe the sun shines in from the north, south, east, west, whatever it is, and whatever room you happen to be within the home, maybe depending upon the time of day, you could see something like that, like a shadow cast. So maybe walk around your house and see where your shadow casts on the wall in front of each and every room throughout the house, just if you got nothing else to do, because that will just give you a little bit of insight as to the layout of your own home, and you want to be able to know everything about your home. So first thing I noticed. Now next, we always want to have good standoff from the wall, guys, but we're always going to be limited to whatever our environment allows us to have. So here, I don't want to be scraping up against the wall making all that noise. So I'm going to have as much standoff as I can. That's why the compressed ready position and keeping that weapon flat to the deck is so important, because as he comes around this corner here, he doesn't want to have that weapon break the threshold of the doorway and then just get grabbed, and now it's a very, very different fight. So he has it compressed ready. He's coming up on the threshold here. Good job keeping his weapon aligned with the threshold of the doorway. He begins to clear, but now you start to see it lag a little bit. Remember, if there's any lag in here, as is about to be exposed, and he's drifting, he should have kept that gun tight up on that threshold with standoff as he's peeling around it compress ready flat to the deck in case he happens to see somebody. See all this gap here, guys. This is exactly why Adam was able to engage him, because Adam did a really good job of keeping his weapon oriented right on the threshold. Plus, he could also see his shadow coming up. Now, from Adam's defensive perspective, I wouldn't just be standing in the middle of a room. I would probably put myself, especially as I'm seeing his shadow cast on the wall. I don't want to move too much, make too much noise, because you will hear that stuff. But I'm at least going to try to get myself up against this first wall off to our criminal's right side here. Because if I'm deep in up against that wall, that means that I'm going to, one, be the hardest for him to see, but two, the moment that he begins to make entry, I'll immediately be able to engage him, and most people forget to dig their corners. So that's why I would put myself over in that position right there. As he breaks that threshold, I'm already starting to engage him. I wouldn't just be standing in the middle of a room. Now, this is where we get interesting. Adam shoots first. He didn't expect Ray to shoot back. This is why force-on-force training is so important. Look at him. He's sitting here standing there, shoots twice, and then Ray pops off a shot, and he ducks out of it. Now, Adam, our home defender, assumes he hit Ray, and he very well did. However, this is why force-on-force training is so important, guys. It wasn't a fatal hit. Yeah, it was the forearm, but guys, you need to get out of the range mentality. That's why I'm always talking about on the flat range, like, keep your mind engaged in the drill, stay focused, keep that finger on the trigger, because you're aimed in even after you shoot. Then consciously observe your environment and pull yourself out of the scenario, pull yourself out of the drill. Then your finger comes out off that trigger guard, come back to that compress ready, and then go ahead, observe, and reset. You need to begin to develop that conscious awareness of when you're coming out of said scenario and drill, so you don't make this fatal mistake right here, because as Adam found out, Ray was going to come back for more, and he even came back a third time. So Adam went from essentially having the better deal in this gunfight. First shot's off, hit Ray in the forearm. Ray shoots, doesn't hit him. He missed. Then Adam thinks, well, scenario's done. So he just stands there to where he ducked, which is where? Right in the middle of a fatal funnel. He's standing right in a door frame. Easy to shoot. So Ray makes the same mistake again, has gap here, and he's actually breaking the threshold. So Adam already saw him coming back again, but because he didn't completely remove himself or move to a new location, remember guys, shoot, move, communicate. And that also includes communicating with yourself internally. So you shoot, you move. Like, I'm not gonna be standing in the middle of the room to begin with, I'm gonna be in this corner. Guy comes through, I start shooting at him. I'm not sitting in the exact same spot in that corner, because now they know exactly where to go in order to engage me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably, because this is my house, and I know I'm gaming the game here because it's Adam's first scenario he's ever run, but because there is a room back here with another hallway door over here, I'm going to put myself deep in this corner. He breaks the threshold, I shoot. I'm then going to peel myself out into the next room, and I'm going to peek down the hallway, and I'm going to see if I could get some more shots off from the door frame. And if I don't see him, I'm going to continue to peel myself back a little bit more into the next hallway and then dig a corner with a position of dominance, because that means one of two things. He either went running out the door because he's wounded, or he went back into the room as I was exiting the room. And so I'm going to pull myself back just a little bit more to create more distance, time, and space, so that way I can engage him with much greater efficacy as opposed to getting into some sort of hand-to-hand combat. Adam went from winning this fight by shooting Ray in the arm, which would have definitely eventually kicked in and sucked, to here he takes 2 femoral artery shots. Right there and right there. When we looked at the impacts on his legs, it couldn't have been a more perfect femoral hit. So now he's got 2 broken femurs, and he's got 2 femoral bleeds. I don't even know, 2 femoral bleeds, you probably bleed out in less than 10, 30 seconds. Depends, I guess, on the nick and all that stuff. But yeah, he went from winning this home invasion to now he's dead. And he's going to collapse right there. He's not like, that's it, man. And you're quickly losing consciousness and you're done. And now you've got a wounded guy who's probably pissed in your house with your family. Not a good situation. And so some of the big lessons from this video, just to recap, guys. One is speed, surprise, violence of action are the fundamentals of CQB or a home invasion. So always ask yourself, are you implementing any area of the 4 pillars of home defense? How well is your home deterring criminals? How well can you detect criminals in real time? How well can you delay criminals? And ultimately, how well are you capable of defending your home? As we saw here, that's the first lesson. Speed, surprise, violence of action. Take it away from them, because if they get that on you, you're just kind of screwed. There's not much you could really do. Next is understand shadow cast as it goes throughout your home. Just walk around different times of the day. Observe. Take mental notes. It's not a big deal. Don't overthink it. Third is identify the types of approaches you would have to a door within your home. Where do you have more space to stand off the edge? Where do you have less space to stand off of the threshold of the door frame? Because that's what the criminals are going to be dealing with. And that could also allow you now to see what their perspective would look like. And then you could just game it and say, you know what? If I'm in this room, I can't see shadow cast, but I know they're compressed right here at a minimum. If they're even doing it right, which they're probably not, but always assume that they are. And so that can just give you some good gaming the game advice. Maybe you even set up some internal cameras in your home and you create something called a shoot-through wall. That's another concept in the home defense that I highly encourage you guys to check out. A shoot-through wall. You have no shoot walls, and then you have a shoot-through wall, which could have been implemented here in theory. Next is remember to always hang that weapon system off of that door frame, because if any gap persists between your weapon's muzzle and that door frame, that opens up the opportunity for the other guy to get shots off on you. And if you're a home defender, don't just stand in the middle of the room. That's the worst spot that you could possibly stand. If you get in an engagement, get out of the range theatrics, guys. When you're on the flat range, pull yourself consciously, very intentionally. I'm going into the drill, and then after you're done shooting, you observe your environment. I'm pulling myself out of the drill, finger off the trigger. Now you're out of the drill. Go ahead and reset in any way that you need to. You have to begin to develop that on the flat range, otherwise you're going to do exactly this type of thing in a real life scenario, and this is devastating. So you're not out of the fight. If you shoot, move, and then begin to communicate with yourself, and then say, hey, I need to keep this gun up, and then if you need to shoot again, move again. Next lesson, don't stand in fatal funnels. Don't stand in doorways, guys, no matter what. It's a concentrated area. Look, Adam takes up like 80% of that doorway. So if I just shoot 5 rounds through that door frame, that big ass door frame, I have an 80% chance of hitting him, probably more percent chance. If I fire 1 shot, I have an 80% chance of hitting him. So think about that. Don't be in the door frames. Utilize your home's concealment so that you understand how you can move and flow around here. So for example, I would have popped my head back out here, seen him peeking in the room, been like, where the hell did he go? Because he probably wouldn't have rushed in unless it was a really, really bad injury, but not a forearm shot. And then I would have started engaging him from down the hallway right here. He would have pushed back into here, and then now I have my option, my choice of doing whatever it is I want to do. So, play that out in your house, in your scenarios, see what methods of movement you can implement within your own home. But most importantly, guys, you're never out of the fight. You are never out of the fight until you know for an absolute fact that that threat has been stopped. It's never over. It takes a fraction of a second, 2 pounds of trigger pressure, guys, and that sends a ball of lead right at your face, right in your femorals, and you're dead now. Adam would have undoubtedly died very fast enough. He would have died just fast enough to watch this guy stand over him and get a good look at his face, potentially, to see the guy who's probably going to rape and murder and molest his family. At least that's what I think of. I don't know, maybe that's dramatic. I don't care. Somebody home invades me and they're shooting at me with a gun, I'm more than convinced they're there to do that and more. So take with it whatever you will. Good run, good lessons. Let me know what questions you guys have.